Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we are going to recap the second ADCC South American Trials that happened in Brazil this weekend. We're going to also recap the main event for Fight to Win 194 and preview the IBJJF 2022 European Championships. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, with the co-host
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. We finally got some technical issues kind of sorted out before recording, so that's nice.
On this wonderful Valentine's Day.
On this wonderful Valentine's Day
edition.
that both of us aren't doing shit for, and very having a good day regardless. I've been doing work on my house all weekend, so I'm very happy to take a chill day, do the podcast. Any news this week? I don't really have much other than we've been pretty deep into trials, discussing a lot of the kind of preliminary matches that we're not going to get a chance to talk about on the show today. There was a lot that happened. There was a lot of great storylines, but other than that, really that's kind of been the focus of the Jiu-Jitsu community this weekend was just South American Trials.
Pretty much.
Who are the South American competitors, mostly Brazilian competitors, but also an Ecuadorian, that made it in to ADCC World Championships 2022. We're also getting close to the second American Trials, North American Trials.
Closer.
Yeah, we're a couple weeks ago? A month?
Yeah. April. First week of April.
April 3rd, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just know I need to get a plane ticket.
Yeah, I gotta get a plane ticket. I gotta get hotels too. I gotta sort the whole trip out because
you can stay at the same hotel the event's at. That's where I'm at.
That's what I'm gonna do too. But I decided like 2 weeks ago. I was like, I'm gonna go. I enjoyed the last one.
It'll be fun.
I'm gonna go. So that's been my week. But we have no like big news. Do you want to just move right into recap of South American Trials? We're going to preview. We do have the brackets for IBJJF European Championships. We just pulled them up. We have not had a chance to see them, so you're going to hear us go through them as we find them. So
it'll be interesting.
You will be as surprised as we are going through it, which I always kind of like doing it that way because you get the genuine reactions from us of what we see. Like, oh, look at that guy's in the division. That's wild. So moving into our recap of the second ADCC South American Trials. Big names. Where do you want to start with this one? Do you want to start with the men's? I want to start with the men's 66. Do you want to start someplace else?
No, that's fine.
Okay, so men's 66.
Men's 66 was wild.
Men's 66 was wild. Again, a lot of them were pretty wild. There's two of them they're not as hype, but
Fabricio, like if you look at all of his matches, they're pretty crazy.
Yeah,
like all.
He had a great run. He
went 5 for 5, and he did a jumping triangle.
And 5 for 5. That means like all his matches.
Yeah, all 5 of his matches,
including
were
the finals,
submissions, and they were all like under 3 minutes.
They were quick. The ones that I did see, I saw a bunch of highlights for him. The ones that I did see were quick.
I'm pretty positive it could have been even shorter than that, but they said they were all pretty short.
Yeah.
So I don't think he went into points at all. I think he completely stayed, and he just subbed the fuck out of everybody.
I think that's right. He was on. He was on a tear 2 weeks ago, or last weekend, at the first South American Trials, looking phenomenal there. So, not really a huge surprise that he comes in. He was in the finals last weekend, right?
Yeah, he was.
And then doing the finals again this weekend. Yeah, not surprised.
What was weird was the one announcer, and I can't.
We had Howell and we had Victor Davia.
I think it was Victor.
They both had their voices blown out. They'd both been yelling all weekend.
One of them was talking about how Fabricio was never a no-gi competitor, and he showed up at Fight Sports a couple weeks ago and just started doing no-gi.
A couple months ago. I think he said a couple months ago.
And so
that was
that's crazy.
That's Victor talking about that.
So
So finals match for the under 66 kilogram division. If you don't know what ADCC is, ADCC Trials, it is a regional trials you do to get a slot into the World Championships for ADCC, the most prestigious no-gi event. If you are like a former returning champion or a medalist, you will get an invitation slot. If you are not one of those people, or like Mcnally or something, you're not getting an invitation slot. You have to win a trials event.
Did you guys talk about how a lot of people are not happy about Mcnally?
A lot of people weren't happy about Mcnally 2 years ago.
I like the fact
it's Mcnally.
It's Mcnally.
It's fun. He's really, really good. It'll be wild to see him compete for the first time in no-gi. You get 1 or 2 in ADCC to keep things interesting.
Yeah.
I like the Mcnallys in there because he's world class. He's top level.
Did you see the picture of him with Gordon Ryan?
I did see that picture.
He's freaking huge.
He's giant. He's been giant.
He made Gordon Ryan look small.
Yeah, Mcnally's giant.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited.
And he's, under 99? Or is he above 99?
I think he's above 99, but I could be wrong.
But he can train with Gordon, and Gordon isn't like, hey, you're in my bracket.
We're
I
still,
can't really deal with you.
and Gordon would love that. Like, Gordon would absolutely love to train with guys to learn what they do before. Because then we have the Modolfo camps.
He doesn't come off that type. He comes off a little.
There's that.
Yeah.
So moving into the final, so ADCC Trials, before we get off the rails because I'm tired, ADCC Trials, very big deal. This is the last opportunity for you to win a trials slot if you are a competitor from South America. All the South American
or have some sort of South American ancestry.
Passport.
Yeah.
You have to have a South American passport of some
Which
sort.
means you could have been born there and traveled, and or a parent that resided there. Because a lot of countries, if you have a parent that is like Brazilian.
Oh yeah, I always forget that.
It's
based on passport. Yeah,
you can get a passport.
Yes.
You can
I
get
always
like
forget
a
that the American rules for passports are kind of somewhat different than a lot of other countries. So
I know Ireland, you can have a grandparent.
Yeah.
And
I think Italy is I think Italy might also be a grandparent.
Yeah,
but
it
like
is.
Some countries are a little more open to.
I wish I had a grandparent.
Your ability to get a passport for them.
I would get a passport from a foreign nation just because.
You have a passport for that country, for that area. You can do it. Finals match for the under 66 kilogram division. We had Fabricio Andrey taking on Kaua I messed up his name a bunch. Barbosa.
Yeah.
But
it's like Kaua, and then it's like Gabriel or Regio Barbosa.
A bunch of names with Barbosa. Fabricio came out swinging fast in this match. Basically, from the jump, in the first 2 minutes, he almost takes the back off of like an entire rotation around reading my notes.
I'm reading your notes.
Reading my notes.
Reading your notes.
My notes are always my thoughts at the time.
Yes,
and
I can see that.
They're a bit more colorful than I am on the show most of the time.
Yes, they are.
Basically, there's a really, really big pass all the way around from like the cross side, all the way around Barbosa's back, and ends up kind of taking his back, working to get the hooks. He's super active in the way that he leg pummels, and that was one thing that I was very, not surprised about, but it was really interesting to see because he was focused, again, very much on top control with the hands, with the body lock that he had, but you saw him actively pummeling like under the knees and under the feet and on the calf, and actually like really working his feet in for the pummel for a couple times. But initially at this beginning kind of back take sequence is where I noticed that there was a huge amount of active foot pummeling that we do not see. We are seeing more and more. We don't see it. We are seeing more and more. We're seeing people get better at it. Like, it is no longer just on pushing your foot or holding your leg. It's guys are actively like lifting their foot out and pushing it in and pushing on the side of the leg, and like then pushing and lifting up with their hook and turning over. There's much more being done with the lower body as far as like hook control than we have seen in the past. And this match was like a prime example that Fabricio gets into the legs from the back to get the hooks in and immediately starts getting active with how he is pummeling like in back mount. So it was a nice little transition. Fabricio, again, just Barbosa escapes that. The match keeps going.
This is the one that he jumps on his back and he stands up and is like rear naked choking him standing, or was that semis?
Yeah, semis. That was semis. Yeah. Because Barbosa does a really good job like preventing a lot of what Fabricio is doing. But Fabricio is just sort of like in another gear for most of this match. Yeah. And he's just like kind of on top. There's a really interesting transition here that I liked. It was a flying armbar attempt from Fabricio, and it was off of a grip that I like a lot. It was Fabricio had like a weak overhook grip, almost like what you're going to look for like an Uchimata for like an outside trip or like a throw, or like you're going to drop it low and go to a body lock or go to a lift. Yeah. And Fabricio like realizes that Barbosa has like a really heavy underhook, and that he's like committed super deep to that underhook because he's also going to try to like take him down or body lock. And Fabricio essentially does like a handstand, throws his hips over top, and essentially like traps that arm in front of him while he goes for this flying armbar takedown. Yeah. It was a really nice thing that you see at the lower weight classes, and it's the reason why you have to be worried about someone who has a really heavy underhook if they're not able to get in on you. And again, it's reason like this is partially why I like the overhook games, because that's never there. Yeah. It was interesting to see Fabricio play off the overhook give up the super deep underhook and then immediately throw that sub off of it. It's just, again, it's stuff that you see in ADCC because there's such an emphasis on wrestling at the lower weight classes. You don't see it as much in other tournaments, especially in like the gi. So it was neat. I loved this match. Eventually, like, Fabricio gets to the back, finishes a choke. There's a bit of a discussion.
He does. Like, yeah, there was it stalling? Was that the issue?
I didn't really know.
Were they trying to say that they were stalling?
I couldn't tell.
Because then they brought the translators in, which even more confused me on what the hell was going on. And then they didn't do any penalties.
No, but I think I like that ADCC does that. They'll give you like a warning.
Yeah.
Before they give you penalties. Like, they'll let you know, like, the refs in ADCC, I think, are some of the better refs in the sport, the best refs in the sport, because they communicate with their athletes. And Miranda and I did the rules seminar for our East Coast trials, and they talk about, like, communicating with the athlete is important, so the athlete knows, like, the expectations and, like, what they can do, what they can't do. He goes, they're like, and they talked about it, you know, during the rules seminar. Yeah, we're not an organization that just, like, gives out penalties and doesn't tell you why. We want the athlete to know, like, what we are expecting them to do. If they can't do something, like, give them a warning, like, tell them what you want from them. And then if they're not doing it, or they're doing things they're not supposed to be doing when they've been warned, like, yes, then a penalty is warranted. And I like that.
When some of the other finals matches, they were giving out penalties, like, they were left and
but
right.
I think they were appropriate. We'll talk about kind of some of the later finals matches. They were appropriate. This match, the stoppage was weird. It was definitely, these guys were pretty active. Fabricio was on the back. He was kind of working towards something.
Yeah.
And, like, even the commentary staff, like, how didn't quite, they weren't even quite sure, like, why there had been a discussion. If it was like, and I'm guessing that Fabricio was doing something with his hands, like, on the front of the face.
Yeah.
And, like, they were trying to communicate, because in ADCC you can't put your hands on the eyes.
Okay.
And I'm guessing, because the angle was kind of hard, I'm guessing that Fabricio is reaching his hands up higher on the top of the face or under the bridge of the nose.
Well, because he was face cranking everybody.
Right.
Because when you would go for the rear naked choke, everybody would tuck their chin and he would just go straight across the face.
Which is fine, but ADCC is, they have some unique rules for, like, what you're allowed to do. Like, you cannot touch, like, essentially from the below the eyebrows to, like, the top of the nose or the bottom of the nose. Like, you're not allowed to do that thing where you rake under the nose to draw them up. Like, ADCC does not allow you to do that. You can't touch the eyes. So that's what I was guessing was happening, was, like, they wanted to be clear about, like, hey, you've been face cranking guys all day. You're in the finals. Like, Barbosa's not going to go away easy. When you do this, when you are going for these chokes, you have to keep your hands here. Yeah. Because we're about to see you start working for this. Because that's what I was guessing it was.
And that makes more sense, bringing a translator in to try to bring
and
to help with that.
Very clearly communicate, like, this is what you cannot do here. You're good to go. Because, again, they talked about it on commentary. Maybe it was a stalling thing, but that's what I was guessing it was based on, again, the rules that we understood. There were a couple times the commentary had, like, some confusions about some of the rules. Again, ADCC is really, really unique in how they do it. We'll talk about kind of the confusion later. There was a call for points on a takedown that you and I went, that wouldn't be points. But the commentary staff was confused as to why it wasn't points, and we'll explain it here in a minute. Fabricio Andrey gets the face crank just a little over 5 minutes. Yeah. And goes 5 for 5 on the day. Monster.
Yeah. And he did it. He did everything very quickly. He didn't really seem to be in any problems in any of his matches. No. He just kind of took the driver's seat and, like, even in this match,
every time Barbosa would, like, begin to throw up something, like, Fabricio would just be like, he would be a step ahead of it. Yeah. And he'd be able to counter
to attack. Yeah. Immediately. And there was never,
even when Barbosa was, like, putting up some good offense, you saw Fabricio was very measured in, like, he would, like, fight up, he would get his hips off the mat, he would, like, stop the takedown, he would push away, he would make space, he would always have the fight that he wanted to have, and you could see, like, very little changes that he had to make from last week to this week. Again, you're in the finals both weeks. I think he was definitely more aggressive in this match than he was in the finals match last week, where Hayes was able to take it over him. And I think I'm curious to see if, like, that is a game plan or that's, like, a stylistic matchup.
I mean, it probably has been a game plan, because he realized that he lost because
he really wasn't active enough.
Yeah, his lack
was it a decision last week, or that was a points thing?
It was a decision.
I think it was a decision. It was I think it was a close decision, and that was. This is at 66. No, I didn't. Was Gabriel Sousa at 77 last week? We're getting into trials time where I start to mix up all the Brazilians.
Who are you talking about? Gabriel Souza?
Gabriel Souza.
He wasn't in trials.
No, he was on. That was the Andre Carberry last week.
Yeah.
It was Pato.
Yeah.
The two guys I always switch around, as you've heard the show before.
Yeah. Pato's a 66.
Pato was a 66, so we saw Pato versus Race last week.
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't Fabricio Andrey last week.
No.
Okay.
I don't know who he lost to.
I forget. So, but regardless, Fabricio looked great. Very excited to see him. I love that guys are going like 5 for 5, 6 for 6, 4 for 5 in trials. That is something we've been seeing more and more from the trials winners. It's like they are a step above the folks in their division submission-wise, which has been great to see.
And I would say mostly also at the lower weights. When it gets up to the higher weights, I think the matches have been a little more equal.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Wrestle heavy. But again, I forget who. We have another guy, I forget what finals match. I think he also went, a Gutenberg Pereira at plus 99, also went 4 for 4 or 5 for 5.
That's Gutenberg.
It is good. But I'm saying, Miranda, you were like, only at the smaller weight class. I'm like, no, Gutenberg Pereira is plus 99. He counts too. He's a plus 99. So that does it for plus 60, from under 66 kilograms. In under 77 kilograms, we had Roberto Jimenez versus Fabio Caloi. I always mess up Fabio's last name. He's a veteran. He's been around forever. And I was very curious going into this trials. I was like, how is Roberto Jimenez's heel hook defense?
Did you see the video of him on the sidelines, like playing with the mat with his hands, where he just looked completely insane?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, there's a video of him that Flo put out, and it's him on like crouched down with his like fingers on the mat, like feeling the mat and like getting angry. And it's the craziest shit I've ever seen. He was all in the zone. And it was like...
Oh, yeah. He looked amped the entire... Yeah. I mean, he looked like we saw him look at brown belt. And, like, on, like, the first Third Coast Grappling, he was a brown belt. And he just came out and trucked his opponent. And you went, who is this dude? And all the local Texas guys were like, oh, this is Roberto Jimenez. Yeah. Wait for it. And even the Third Coast guys were like, yeah, that's why he's on the card, because he's a guy that we know about, that you should know about. He goes to Brazil, and in the commentary, Howell and Victor brought it up on commentary, like, even during his match, like, historically has had issues with leg lock defense. Yeah. We saw him in the Jacob Couch match on Who's Number One get heel hooked, I wouldn't say quickly, but, like, Couch transitioned through, heel hooked, Jimenez wasn't able to fight the feet, and Couch got, you know, a quick heel hook with not a lot of opposition there.
Well, and I admit that was what I thought. I was seeing him go through the ranks, and I thought, he'll make it to like semifinals, right? And then somebody will just heel hook the crap out of him, and then he'll be out.
I was wrong.
And it surprised me. There was a couple times where people tried to go after his feet, but no one really he defended it quite well and got him away.
He was pulling away. But I loved in this match, we saw, like, for a couple of the matches, we see Roberto, and again, we've seen Roberto win with leg locks. I think, didn't he has a couple big wins by leg locks. Like, he can do it. He has wins there, but historically that has also been kind of his biggest problem. I do love that we saw him shirtless, and that we saw him kind of go back to...
You love that you saw him shirtless.
I like ADCC shirtless matches.
You didn't like him in his t-shirt and shorts that he was doing for his first couple of matches? No. His first, like, 3 matches, him and Majid were, like,
ADCC lets you do it shirtless. It's wild because the grappling gets so much different, and we just don't see it very often, and it's something about ADCC that kind of makes it special, because that's one of the few events that let you do it, and where folks will actually, like, elect to be without a shirt or without a rash guard. So I like to see it, because you look at a match, you go, that's an ADCC match. Yeah. So... I think it also helps him with the ability for him to body lock in the guard and go around, because he's sweatier there and there's less friction with, like, a rash guard. Sense. And that's one of his, like, best moves, is that, like, shuck behind from the guard, the double unders on the guard. We see him going for the leg locks. We see him in the knee bars. Does a really good job being super aggressive and quick. Again, we've seen it. We saw it a lot at brown belt. We saw it at the beginning of black belt, and then he sort of slowed down a little bit, and we saw less of that, like, ferocity in his recent matches. That was back in full here for trials. In a way, again, in a way that we just haven't seen in, a little bit. Like, he was extremely active when Fabio went for the guillotine choke, like Roberto pulled out, gets away, immediately punishes him with like securing the takedown, getting on the mat. Overall, it was a really kind of telling match that Roberto was like making improvements in the areas that we wanted to see him improve, and has brought back that ferocity in the match.
And maybe that's what comes with learning more and being a little bit more, knowing that he can defend a heel hook a little bit better.
Yeah.
Then he decides to come out and kind of.
It was interesting because Victor Daria brought it up on the commentary. It's something we've talked about internally in Grappling Rewind. Is like the leg locks coming out of Brazil, historically, like it has been a really, really not taboo thing, but like it was taboo for a lot of years. Yeah. The American.
They said the ADCC in the past there was no heel hooks or anything, no leg submissions.
In the Brazilian trials.
In the trials,
like
before.
That's something that we've seen for a little bit now in the North American scene and the trials and the North American trials. That like the leg locks and like being really, really good at leg locks is you cannot be successful in American organizations anymore without having that. And Brazil is like definitely lagged behind in a lot of the Brazilian competitions. And so it is kind of an interesting thing that Jimenez, who historically has had this weakness, is able to go to the Brazilian trials and not, have that end up being a factor. It was interesting, and Victor Daria on commentary brought that up as something. It's something we've talked about internally, but I never like to talk about like region differences like that, because I like to have a lot of data before I make like an overarching claim like that. When a commentator says that, I can like piggyback off it. Jimenez basically gets to the top. He spends a lot of time in north-south, really controlling with the body lock from north-south. He goes knee on face, knee on neck. He transitions opposite side, knee on face, knee on neck to like get the position that he wants. And I went, that is crazy control and dexterity and balance to be able to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And like to be able to comfortably do that on the top of a guy like Fabio was just like, it was very telling the level of confidence that Jimenez had here and like how he knew he could leverage his athleticism in this match. Gets to the back, traps the arms with the feet, finishes the choke. That's it. Super impressive Jimenez. Do you have any other pieces you want to add or any other kind of notes here that you want to bring up for the match?
No, but if you watch all of Jimenez's matches, or at least the highlights of all his matches, they're all very exciting to watch.
He had a bunch of subs too, right?
Yeah, he did. I think he went like 4 for 5.
Yeah.
I don't think he subbed everyone.
I forget who he didn't sub. But I think he takes a points victory.
Yeah, I
right?
think so.
It was a points victory for third round or semifinals. I forget which one it was. But again, props to Jimenez, man. Making it through Brazilian trials. Historically, one of the crazier, harder trials. That's up for discussion now, but it's no joke.
Is he the only non-Brazilian?
I assume.
He's Ecuadorian.
He's Ecuadorian. I assume he's the only non-Brazilian. That's historically Brazilian trials is primary. I mean, it's called Brazilian trials for a reason. Yeah. They're both in Brazil. They're not going to Mexico to do the trials. It's in Brazil for the most part.
Mexico's in North America. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Geography.
Definitely. Yep. God damn it. I've given people shit for that in the past, too, and I can't believe I just said it like on, but I'm not going to cut it out. I should cut it out, but I'm not going to. So you all get to hear that dumb look into Maine's head for today. Moving on to 88 kilograms before I dig myself a larger geography hole. 88 kilograms, we have Rafael Pagini versus Alexandre Joaquin de Jesus.
Isn't it Robinho? They said his nickname was Robinho.
Yeah, Robinho.
Yeah.
First note, both dudes shirtless, bricked up Brazilians.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Welcome to 88 kilograms in Brazilian trials. Rafael shoots a guillotine and then ends up on the bottom. Rafael's doing some really good job playing reverse de la Riva and immediately like inverting under the legs very quickly. And we're seeing more and more of that at the higher weight classes than we have before, where like guys are comfortable playing a game that historically was in the lower weight classes, and they're playing it like guys at the lower weight classes. Again, this is under 88. Yeah. These are not guys that are 150, 160. These are These are guys cutting from 200 or like the 190s a lot of times to get this. Rafael's playing really, really close, knees in like the rib cage, entering under the legs, inverting every time Jacquinde tries to like pass or go over. Very different style of game than we saw a couple of years ago.
Yeah, 88's kind of like the middle ground between smaller guys and the larger. Like, it's kind of the middle. So you get guys that still invert and do.
But I feel like I could be wrong here.
Smaller men things.
But like but
you don't historically see a lot.
We're seeing it done in a way where we kind of see it in like the women's weight classes where they will fold their body over and do it, as opposed to we used to see it where you'd see someone invert and they'd make like a bigger arc with their body to get around the leg. We're now seeing inversions like directly under someone's standing guard. Yeah. In a way that I don't think we did as much, or it was more rare. Okay. Like we see Pagini just be able to do it here in a way that, again, it just flicked something in my head that was like, oh yeah, this is 88. This is something that we used to just not see guys do as tightly of that roll to regard or attack for the legs.
Generally, they're not going to be that flexible.
No.
As you get a larger man, they generally aren't. Yeah. That flexible.
That's a very standard thing.
Then there are some that are. They're the ones you got to watch out for.
Yeah, usually. So this one ended up being like, I think Rafael was on the bottom for a good portion of it, putting up a lot of good offense. And then you keep going here. I'm going to fix the dog.
Oh, no worries. So, yeah, Pagini, or is it Paganini? Paganini?
It could be Pagini. I'm going to butcher his name. We can call him Rafael.
Rafael. I know Rafael was playing guard for a while because when overtime hit, they made him stand up, and then it became the two of them standing again.
And that's a really interesting thing they do in the finals. Yeah. Which
is exciting because...
It's a restart.
Yeah. And so then, I mean, if you're a guard player, you're fucked. Like
you're forced to wrestle. I mean, ADCC is very much like a submission wrestling tournament.
Or you take the negative knowing that you can get it back.
Which is some ball shit. We've seen it
happen.
It's always like that is a confidence in your game that like
you do the Tonin thing, which is you shoot really horribly and just kind of
was it Tonin or was it Nikki?
Tonin does it. Tonin shoots a really bad double to a leg entry.
To a leg entry.
Yeah,
but I mean, people they'll shoot. Like Gordon did it. Yeah. They shoot. You drive for 3 seconds. Yeah, and then you kind of end up in a turtle and you pull and you get the guard there. And Meow does it, I think. Like a bunch of guys in the lower weight classes do it. This goes back on the feet.
It's a tactic.
Yeah. Both guys got hella tired.
Which makes sense. And then
it got a little, I want to say a little sloppy, but you saw the speed was not there to penetrate through the double legs that they were both kind of attempting. They were both kind of looking for the collar ties, but overall they were both
just kind of pushing each other.
Well, they were racking up penalties for like inactivity and like for stalling, and I thought it was very reasonable and warranted. Towards the end of the match, you definitely saw that both guys had very little left in the tank, which is awesome. That's what I like to see in a finals match, but they did not have like the ability to push through.
Yeah, if one of them kicked it in the overdrive, it would have been.
I don't think either of them had that.
Neither of them seemed like they had that going on.
Gets a really close decision. Who ends up taking it?
Rubinho.
In my notes, it was like, it goes, it's a close decision. And I went, for who made decision goes to, Alexandre there. Again, very close. Curious to see how he looks in 88 in the World Championships. If he's going to work on the gas, or again, we're seeing these guys that also at the end of the day. Yeah. It is not really as
time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really as representative of them like in the first couple of matches, like the World Championships. Trials are a very kind of different beast. Although it is a shorter match time, it is like you will have more than 2 matches in a day. Yeah. That's just unusual. Moving on to under 99 kilograms, we have Jose Henrique Cardoso Sassoni versus Lucas Lira. I like this one. This one was fun. Where do you want to start?
What do you mean with this match?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that didn't Sacconi, he was in finals last week. And he lost.
Yeah, he did.
To Joao Costa.
Yeah, in a very, very heavy wrestling match that was mostly on the feet. They ran into the computer at one point. Yeah. It stopped everything. Yeah. Was this match with the fire? No, that was earlier in the day.
No, I didn't know about the fire until like recently.
Yeah, there was a fire in the building.
Yeah, and they had to like but they only removed half the people in the building.
Yeah, fire only affects half the building. That's how fire works.
You can't, I
mean, apparently this trial's had a lot of issues too.
Yeah, this was more of a
internet issues and tech issues.
Tech issues.
And the Flow guys were very, very somewhat vocal online with being upset about it.
Blatantly said it out loud.
Which is like, I can understand the frustration after trying to put on a huge event like trials and like trying to call it and commentate it and broadcast it. It can be frustrating. Beginning of this match, we had Cardozo hit a really like nice takedown, and we see Lira immediately like roll through on a knee bar, and they go to guard. Lira is doing a really good job of pushing the hips away in order to attack the leg on the outside, and both guys sort of did that. Am I getting the name wrong here? You squinted your eyes at me.
No, I was... I'm trying to figure out, like, my notes are weird, takedown. Like, what am I talking about?
Very helpful.
Yes, very helpful.
Lira, a lot of this match was going for nice leg lock entries, and he would do something that I like a lot, and you see it sometimes, but you only see it for certain types of entries. You push on their outside hip, and you, like, push them away as you enter the leg lock. It lets them running man out more easily, but if you're going to go for like almost like a more like an old school like traditional like a rolling heel hook or like a rolling knee bar or toe hold, it'll set them off in that direction. And if people historically have been unable to outroll and you can catch them first, you can get it. And that's a lot of what Lira's entries into the leg locks looked like. He looked like he would sort of like push away. Jose wouldn't be in a great position to like step out and get up to running man. He would have to like pull out as he was rolling.
See, and I love when people do the running man, because then I just like grab their lower leg below their knee, and I just circle under it, and then I force myself into 50-50.
There's that.
That's normally what I do.
And we see Lira doing that a little bit here. Is like he does a really good job of like pushing away, forcing, because you can't running man up,
you just have to be fast enough. You have to be faster than the other person.
Yeah. This is the match that had the question about points.
I think that's what the weird question mark touchdown, not touchdown, takedown note is mine, because there was what
Lira goes for a takedown that is countered by Sassoni with a guillotine.
Yes.
Sassoni gets deep, kind of pretty deep on a guillotine.
Yeah.
And then he kind of ends up snapping down Lira. Yeah. Lira goes to the turtle, and then they roll into like the guard or something like that. And the commentary went, okay, that should be 2. And they're off the mat too, which adds another layer of like, you have to think about, ADCC, that doesn't matter. Yeah. And so Miranda and I did the rules seminar, and specifically in the rules seminar, they go, if you are taking someone down and you counter with a guillotine.
Unless they let go of the guillotine, that's when your time starts.
No. A counter with a guillotine on a takedown doesn't mean shit. Like, it is a counter. If you take them down with the guillotine, it is a counter that you did. It is not you initiating the takedown.
Oh, no.
You will not get points for it.
But what I'm saying is your 3 count for your takedown doesn't start until the guillotine is off your neck.
Until the submission is cleared. But like that wasn't even the case here, where Lira goes to turtle, and because Lira initiated the takedown attempt, Sassoni countered with the guillotine. Sassoni cannot get that takedown because Sassoni didn't initiate it. He did it as a defensive reaction to stop the double leg. And so there is never an opportunity there for Sassoni unless he changes the position. But on a reactive guillotine, ADCC will not reward you or not award you with takedown points for that. Then if you go to the turtle, that's not establishment of control anyway. So it's like even if you had the guillotine, he ends up in the turtle at the end. Yeah. There's no points. You're staying in the turtle for 3 seconds. You go to guard, which is kind of what happened.
Then there's no takedown.
There's no points. So there's no takedown for the guillotine, reactive guillotine, and there's no takedown for the turtle. And their commentary was going, they were confused why there was no points, and they were like, kind of looking at the reffing and the judging and going, I'm not sure. And I went, I know something.
Yeah.
That's why. Here's why. I could explain it on the podcast.
But it was smart. It was smart to how he handled it. To go to the turtle. I mean, it's kind of like how you go to turtle if you know you're going to be passed.
Right. You're going to give up an advantage in a lot of rule sets, but in ADCC they're going to be like, yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like letting people roll. I mean, and I like both. You reward them for changing position in some rule sets, but ADCC, I generally like the way that ADCC pushes the action for both the communication with their athletes and their like way that they have the rules and scoring set up. It tends to make things more interesting.
Yeah, and very seldom do you get the stall out matches when you have two guys that are at an equal level just staring at each other because they're waiting for the other one to either react, move, or do something.
And ADCC will go, hey, you gotta go, and we're not gonna do this. We will very happily DQ you both for stalling. You've got to go here. Really nice finishing sequence on the back. Lira gets both hooks in, fences through, gets the tap relatively quickly. There's a discussion about like he's got to return the points. He ends up getting the points, then getting the tap, so it doesn't matter anyway. Again, Lira looked really good. He played it very well. Sassoni also looked good, but overall it just seemed like Lira was definitely in the offensive position on the match more, aside from a couple of the scrambles and the takedowns.
Yeah.
But even then, I liked that Lira was initiating them, and overall it was a fun match.
It was a very fun match.
And again, another sub in the finals, which I like to see. I like high-profile matches that end in submission, and ADCC pushes that a lot more than other organizations. They just have a rule set that fosters people having to make their own chances and like take bigger chances. Yeah. They're not going to let you get up on 2 points and play from the guard and chill. Like they're just not going to let you do that. And as a result, you get those reactions where it's like a guy has to go and has to make a decision, and he can't just like stall for the points. And it generally makes a lot more fun grappling, and you get to see and showcase more of people's games in there. So, moving on to the finals, the plus 99 kilogram division, we have Gutenberg Pereira versus Leonardo Lemos de Andrade. I'm just copying the names.
Yeah, but isn't Gutenberg was one of Mo's? He sponsored him.
Yeah, Mo sponsored Gutenberg Pereira for the trials. He might have also sponsored Fabricio Andrey. He
sponsored a bunch of people the last minute. Like the last minute, they all came up because I remember I asked the group. I was like, this is just them for trials? Like all these. Yeah,
you asked. I was like, hey, did they get an invite here? Or I was like, no, this is just a trials. Like Mo's basically paying for the guys to come out because like, hey, I want to see you in trials. You know, you're gonna have financial trouble getting here, or whatever situation they're in. Yeah. Mo's like, yeah, I'll get you here for trials so you can go do trials. And so Gutenberg Pereira was one of the last guys that came across that list, does trials, goes, 4 for 4 or 5 for 5? I think 5 for 5 on the day in subs.
He does. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I agree with you.
Gutenberg Pereira has shown so much more from his game in the last, year. Yeah. He had that huge upset over Nicolas Mcnally, at BJJ Stars.
But mostly the gi, right?
Yeah, mostly
in the gi.
Mm-hmm.
Until
we've seen him in no-gi, but
not at this level of no-gi. This is the first time we saw him at high level.
It's the first time we've covered him. He met it in trials. Again, I don't want to speak out of turn. I think we've mostly even seen him at Fight to Win in no-gi, although he might have been on Subversive in gi. Okay. He might have been on Subversive in no-gi, but that might have been the gi. I don't remember. Primarily, we cover Gutenberg Pereira in the gi.
Yeah.
Dude's good at no-gi. I love at the beginning of this match, though, we have Leonardo just tie kick him in the leg.
Yeah.
From the jump, like an inside tie kick.
So, because I watched a lot of these. I watched a lot of these matches live. At 99 plus, for whatever reason, they like to kick the living shit out of each other. It was more than this match. There was a bunch of matches.
There was a couple matches where guys would just kick low.
You just see them completely fly off into the curtains and then not come back for a little bit. I watched that happen a bunch of times too.
It is interesting, kind of because I'm going to say fast and loose. ADCC plays fast and loose with the rules a little bit. They will let you get away with a little more.
I don't think it was this. I think it was the first trials. They had some guy literally bitch slap the other guy.
Yeah.
And they just kind of stopped it and was like, dude, you can't
do that. Like,
that. But like, it wasn't like they...
ADCC gives you one.
Yeah.
And I appreciate as a spectator. As a competitor, I'd be pissed.
The intensity definitely picks up after there's a bitch slap.
But I like that. It's like, you let guys kind of go to the well a little bit and like maybe like play it, not a little dirty, but exercise the scope of the rules and see how the referee is going to see it that day. See what you're good with.
But he does kick the shit out of him.
He kicks like it's a calf kick.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not a foot sweep calf
you
kick.
You hear it.
It's a calf kick. And Gutenberg looks at him like, what the fuck? and the ref kind of looks at him like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Whoops. Forgot about that.
And then I looked at Rachel and went, what the fuck? And she was like, that was a leg kick. I went, yeah.
There's somebody, it was East Coast Trials, somebody was doing that. It was females.
A lot of people are doing that now.
Like there's a bunch of chicks that were doing it. I know, but I remember watching a bunch of people do it, and they act like they're trying to sweep.
A sweep.
It's like, you're not sweep. You're kicking the shit out.
We're seeing it more and more of people just kicking the leg, and I'm very curious when we are going to get a rule change for it, because it's
when
like
somebody's leg gets broken.
Maybe, but then
when we do like Anderson Silva, like Benny leg, when he goes,
Weidman.
You know.
I watched the fight live with my brother.
What?
Oh, sorry, no, I watched the Weidman fight live with my brother. I haven't seen him in like 8 months.
I watched it in a bar, and it was ridiculous.
I was in college when that fight happened.
So I was trying to sign my
check.
And as I'm signing my check, it happens, and literally I just had this little like circle where I just like started circling it because I got completely sidetracked. Because, dude, the leg, man, it like Gumby leg, like whoop, whoop, back. So when that happens at ADCC is probably when we're gonna, or it happens like the Grippo rule. It happens to someone.
Trials, yeah.
Yeah, it happens to someone in trials.
That is the thing that we're seeing it more and more. People kind of like they banned the Wagner rule, where it's like you've got to muffler choke a certain way with a closed hand in a certain way, like the Grippo rule, where you can't spike forward anymore because it's a spike. Like, again, these are how we get new rule changes. I'm curious to see if instances like this, where Leonardo just tie kicks Gutenberg Pereira, the calf kick in the leg.
I think you have to have a bigger injury.
I think we're gonna have an injury, definitely. But like,
and once we have the injury, then it'll
we're seeing it come to prominence, where it's like, I think 5 years ago, it was an occasional thing, and it was usually off of a foot sweep that a guy was yanking hard. Yeah. Nowadays, we are seeing it. We saw it on Third Coast. Yeah. The guys got in a fight there and got banned from Third Coast for like 6 straight months, where like they were kicking the leg of each other, and it's like, okay, well, we're not. Obviously, you're kicking each other now. We can't have that. Yeah. I think that we're going to see some changes to rules come up in the next couple of years as a result of things like this. Yeah. Again, it doesn't affect the match. Gutenberg kind of goes like, that was, you got kicked me in the leg. And the ref steps in and goes, hey, man, you can't kick him in the leg. Yeah. And he goes, okay. Gutenberg hits a blast double and immediately goes to the high step, because he's kind of caught from Leonardo's like half guard. Yeah. And he immediately doesn't like tripod up, but he starts to tripod his leg up, and then beautifully just windshield wipers his leg out of the half guard and is in side control. Yeah. And then a great cross-face shoulder pressure. He has great hip line pressure, and then he just goes to mount. And I went, oh, this is like the Gutenberg we're going to like, this is a normal thing we're going to see from Gutenberg now, where he just has that gear. But again, that Mcnally fight at BJJ Stars, where everyone kind of like didn't write him off, but was like, no, but everybody Mcnally should take this. Yeah. This is how this should go. And Gutenberg like showed another gear to his game, another level of gameness and like tenacity in his game there. A match like this in the finals, where he just like opens up the legs just enough in the half guard to like not even need to like pull his, like he windshield wipers his leg over the top, because he times the bridge from Leonardo like a little bridge perfectly, where the legs open up a little bit. It's just beautiful technique. Gets to the mount, crawls the same side arm up over and over very slowly. Leonardo's pushing on Gutenberg's face, trying to go over. Gutenberg just patient pressure, great shoulder pressure from the top, just holds it, waits, continues to climb his hand up the mat, push it over. Eventually, he uses his head. He posts on the inside of the arm. He's set up the head and arm, obviously. And you just watch him like take like 30 seconds to just set it up.
and
unrelenting pressure.
And set up the head and arm that everyone gets taught.
Yeah.
Exactly how we
didn't need to fall off for it.
Yeah.
Finished it from mount with no bridge. Looking at how Gutenberg holds mount here, I was like, that dude has to feel like a ton of bricks on your chest.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because Leonardo couldn't like bridge or bump. There was like a little bit.
No, but he wasn't moving at all.
No.
And there was no way that he was moving.
And you saw Gutenberg also get really, really high up on his chest too.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't low on the hips trying to like control the whole body.
And normally when people do that, you still have your lower body to do something with. And he just didn't
Gutenberg just was like, nah, we're here. We're chilling. I'm gonna get this. Gets the win, goes 5 for 5 submissions on the day. I cannot wait to see what Gutenberg put out looks like at ADCC at the World Championships.
It'll be fun.
Like the dude's been getting better and better. We saw I also love it because we saw a match from him versus Tim Spriggs at Fight to Win in Baltimore that was
I forgot about that.
Was not a great match.
No.
And it was like a slow match, and it was a weird match where Gutenberg sat, legs splayed out, flat on the mat, like imploring Spriggs to come and try to pass his guard. And it was this weird kind of match that was like not a great performance to showcase what he could do. And he had another match, I think, with Herber Santos that was kind of a similar vein.
Yeah.
And then to see this dude now, like 2 years later, 3 years later.
But he couldn't play that game that he was playing before at trials.
But we're seeing him not play that game at all anymore.
True.
Like he's just completely changed up like the level of activity he has in his game for the better. And it's just showcasing how talented he is, and I'm down for it. Anything else for the men's matches?
I don't think so.
Men's matches were fun. I can't wait to see if there's any additional invites that come from these. Brazilian trials are always wild. I'm happy that we actually have footage this year out of them.
They kept on trying to get Majid broke someone's foot like his first match.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was watching his matches because I was hoping he was gonna. I did
the same thing. I watched all Majid's matches. I was like,
because I was hoping he was gonna do the same thing that he did.
Go 5 for 5, or go 6 for 6.
Yeah, or go all the way.
You didn't see last week, Majid Hage went 5 for 6 in his finals match. He got Michael Gaval, who went 6 for 6 for subs that day.
I listened to an interview of him, and he said that normally he goes in, which if you watch him, you completely understand this, that he goes into every match without a game plan. He just does whatever he feels like, which completely makes sense if you watch him.
Good for you,
he just kind of does what he wants.
He gets it done.
And that's what he said that he was doing. And then he said when he went against Gaval that he tried to game plan it, and he got too much in his own head, and then he just like got triangled.
Yeah, the competition mentality stuff was always really interesting about.
Yeah,
and that's one of the questions I like to ask guys when we used to do more interviews for high level grapplers. Was some of like their thoughts leading up? Did they have a game plan going into their match?
He has none, and they were calling him the People's Champion, which I thought was hilarious.
That's great
because he's kind of fun. I mean, he's kind of like just whatever, and he's
got a really unique, interesting game, especially in nogi.
Yeah,
even in gi, he's got a unique.
And the thing is, he for someone who some of his matches just goes out and sits, and then he'll come up and freaking like get like some kind of crazy wrestling like duck under to somebody's back and then like suplex them.
Yeah,
it's like freaking wild.
He's got a lot of he's got a lot of dynamism to his game, and that's why I really enjoy it. He got taken out in the semis, right?
Yeah. I don't.
Was it quarters? He had a couple.
It was either quarters
matches.
or semis.
He went out He went out much earlier than I thought he was going to. And I was surprised.
Yeah, he went out to Carlos Costa.
Okay.
Who he actually went against in the first round
of the trials last week.
He beat him. He hit like a duck under, like took his back, and this time it was
a points match this time, right?
No, it was a decision.
Okay,
in overtime.
Yeah,
it was a very, very long match, but the overtime round was definitely Carlos Costa in control. But so I think that I didn't see him say it, but my assumption is he's going to do West Coast trials.
Yeah, because he is doing he did North American trials.
Yeah, he did East Coast.
And he looked good at East Coast trials. He looked great at the first South American trials. He looked good here.
Yeah.
He's a Cali guy anyway, so Vegas isn't that far away. I would assume that he would do it. I mean, nothing about that says he wouldn't do that.
Unless they just invite him in because he's become popular enough that they. But 77. The problem with 77 is it's so packed that I don't think
I think there's one invite left.
I don't think there's any room left to bring him in. So he's gonna have to win.
I have the list for 77 right now. Yeah, 77. JT Torres, Gary Tonin, Dante Leon, Cade Rotolo, Nicky Ryan, Lucas Apri, Davi Ramos, Lachlan Giles, Michael Galvao, Oliver Taza, and then you have.
Can we like take Davi Ramos and kind of remove him and add?
I want to see Davi Ramos, and then you have and then now you have Roberto Jimenez.
Yeah.
And then let's see.
And then you'll have whoever wins West Coast.
And then you have West Coast. You have the second European trials. You have second Asian trials.
Oh yeah, forget about the Asian trials because they moved them.
Yeah.
They canceled Dolce.
So you have two Asian trials.
Oh, okay. So there is
two depending on how it is.
No room.
Well, there may be one. Yeah. Maybe two invites at most.
I just think he's kind of shown that he can.
Look, I want to see him. I want to see him do the next trials, and I would love to see. He has a style that I really enjoy watching, and
he's entertaining.
Yeah. So I like to see guys like that at ADCC. Maybe they're going to struggle against the highest levels, but again, everyone struggles against the highest level.
They started filming a show following them because I guess the Riotolo brothers.
The surf fight guys?
Yeah. The Riotolos were hanging out.
Isn't it called like Rotolos or something?
Yeah, and they were all like hanging out in Mexico.
They're fighting in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Each other.
Well, they were selling. I want to say that they put up that it was like $2,000, and it was Costa Rica, and it was a week.
Yeah.
And it was like the Riotolos. It was Majid, and it was what's his name? Glover. Yeah. And I was like, ooh.
Jeff Glover.
That would be some fun times.
It would just be
entertaining.
That'd be a fun weekend to go like learn because all those guys have wild technique.
You might not, but the thing is, you might not remember anything. Like that might be a whole weekend where it just like goes away and you're like, what happened this weekend? I don't know.
Had a good time. It's $2,000. So before we get too far into the weeds here, let's talk about the women's finals. This is the second trials for South America. So we get a entrant into the women's under 60 kilogram division and the women's over 60 kilogram division. We had in the finals, we had Maisa Bastos taking on Julia Alves.
She came out of retirement for this. They said Bastos.
She's not retired.
I know. They said I guess she was retired from ADCC. I don't know.
Sure you were. Bastos
they acted like she was coming back.
Bastos looked fucking good.
Yeah, she did.
Like, holy shit. Like, unconcerned anywhere. She gets taken down with like, it was like a pro wrestling selling it where like Alves goes like kind of collar tie like collar tie pushes her and Bastos goes, oh, you took me down. Yeah. And the commentary goes, well, you can't pull guard in the finals, so it counts essentially. Yeah. But again, you're not in the points period of ADCC of the trials. Yeah. The trials for the finals, the rules are a little different. In the preliminary rounds, it is 2 3-minute rounds. With an option for a 3-minute overtime or 2 3-minute overtimes, though it's rarely seen for a second 3-minute overtime. You can guard pull in the first 3 minutes with no issue, and there's no points assessed against you. Yeah. In the finals of the World Championships and of the trials, it is 4 minutes, and in the first 4-minute period, you cannot pull guard because you would be assessed a negative point against you from the beginning. It's a very small rule change that sort of forces some different action in the finals. They want to see the full depth of your game. They want to, kind of dissuade guard pulling. So Bastos goes, oh, you took me down. And they go, yeah, it counts good enough. Yeah. You see Bastos' great guard work again. Knees super tight in, close to the body, not really letting Alves pass. Alves sort of decides to trade a sweep with her. Yeah. And Bastos sort of just grabs her foot and comes up. We see some Barambola work from Bastos. Again, nothing we haven't seen from Bastos before. This was Bastos on her A game, looking for the Barambolos, for the leg rides, for the crab rides to the back. Yeah. Eventually, she sort of like bolos and like comes up on like after taking the back and gets to mount and then hits like a modified straight arm lock Americana variation off of like a fall off the top for mount. Yeah. And I was annoyed because the camera that we saw was pointing straight at it, and I watched it like 3 or 4 times. Really see exactly. I knew what it was, but I couldn't see exactly how Bastos finished it. And the commentary did a good job of kind of explaining it. It's like the straight arm lock you hit, but instead of going straight on it, you start to turn that forearm up
Yeah.
So you attack it almost like a really long Americana or Kimura.
Oh,
like
okay.
you can fight it out. I love it. That's how I finish all of my arm locks is I'll pull the arm out, but I'll always pull it out at like a weird angle because you can a lot of times as you're pulling it out, you can put additional pressure on the shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
And before they come out
well,
fully.
That's why I normally go towards the head. Like, I don't pull straight back. I pull towards your head.
And sometimes people are good. They'll roll with you like that. And that's kind of what Alves tries to do
just roll
here.
with them. It doesn't
right.
matter.
But you don't lose the armbar. And so if you're able to finish it, though, you finish this weird, like, middle outstretched armbar Americana kind of thing. And that's what I think Bastos finishes here. But it was, and again, kind of hard, annoyingly kind of hard to tell. But we didn't really learn much from Bastos other than, like, yeah, she's amazing. And that's, that's what there is. She was going to get an invite anyway. She now wins a trial spot.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see her. Anything else on that?
No,
right.
That was she went against the daughter of
Jasmine Rocha.
Yeah.
I looked for the match. I couldn't find it.
You couldn't find it?
No, I looked
I watched it. It was a good match.
But I saw Jasmine Rocha's first match where she got a walkover win.
Yeah.
And that was like 2 minutes long. I was like, okay. And then I couldn't find the second match. I just couldn't, like, it wouldn't.
The two of them, I mean, it was a good match.
Okay. I'll have to go find that.
I mean, she definitely, Bastos had control for most of the match.
Was it a submission or was it a point?
It was a submission.
Really?
It was an
Okay.
arm lock, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me with Bastos, so.
No, but it was, they were both going after each other for the whole time.
Yeah,
it was an interesting match.
Rocha, Achilles, and Jasmine have really kind of come into their own, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Did Achilles do trials here?
I didn't see him.
Okay, I haven't
anywhere.
searched through a lot of the other names yet and looked at. I haven't not pulled
the way
brackets.
his feet were kind of wrapped up when he was at East Coast Trials
I would
makes me
assume
wonder
not.
what the hell was going on.
We'll probably see him do West. We'll probably actually see them both do West Coast Trials, but super excited to see those guys. On the finals match for the women's plus 60 kilogram division, you caught part of it live.
Yeah.
There is no footage up because they had a power outage halfway through it.
Yeah, and then
so
they brought
I couldn't
it back,
find the footage.
but then you didn't know what was going on, and then when they brought it back, it was in overtime already.
Yeah, so they'd already gone through the 8 minutes of regulation, and then the weird thing is in our results here for Flow Grappling, it's listed as 0-0 9 minutes.
But it was
but for a finals that doesn't make any sense.
It was -2 to -3.
Okay.
They were assessing a ton of negative points for inactivity.
Yeah.
And one just playing guard, and the other one not really fully passing or trying to pass.
Right. Well, the winner, so Giovanna Jara wins this, and I watched a couple of her earlier matches through the day.
She's a purple belt out Dream Arts.
Really?
Yeah. They said she's not brand new, but she's newer. She's from Dream Arts, and she's a purple belt.
She looked phenomenal. I watched 2 of her earlier matches.
But she doesn't do anything complicated. She has a very simplistic game.
Smash, and then go for the sub.
I watched her take out some 300-pound woman.
Really?
Yeah, there was some.
I missed that
some
match.
bigger girls in
because you're plus 60.
Yeah,
there's no limit for the plus 60.
And I was like,
for the women.
holy fuck! Get on top, mount control. Choke them.
Yeah, go back and watch. I'm annoyed I can't find her video. Hopefully Flow fixes that and there's at least some in-camera footage they were to take. It's not all just streaming. But extremely impressed with her movement and just the tenacity on her sub. She has a rear naked choke finish in the first or second round that's just quick and brutal. Locks it in really, really well, and just overall was really impressed. Again, she's out of the Dream Art camp. That whole camp looking good.
And they're newer, right? They haven't been around forever.
They split off of something. I forget. Yeah. This is where I need to ask Josh, because Josh knows the etymology of all the teams, and I tend to get lost in the weeds of who's where and who's which.
I think they're one of the the Brazilian, the projects.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of like a nonprofit that because didn't they? It wasn't.
I'm thinking of who's the big guy that runs Dream Art. It's killing me right now.
I can't think of. But there was the video of them showing where they sleep, and it was little holes in the wall.
Is it Azaki Behance? Is he Dream Art?
I don't know. I don't know if that's.
Regardless, Dream Art team has been killing it. Has been looking great. They have a great stable of younger jiu-jitsu practitioners like Yara here. They look phenomenal. I cannot wait to see what she does in ADCC. I'm curious to see how she matches up with the other upper echelon of the women at the plus 60 kilogram division. It was a very fun trials. I enjoyed it a ton. I like how the ADCC rule set works. I think we see a great diversity of technique, in both submissions and like positional work and wrestling. It kind of gives you the whole picture. Lots of subs. Great to see. I got to go back and watch a bunch of matches. I want to watch through Gutenberg Pereira's matches again because he has been just like delighting me with the changes that he's made to his game. And overall, very, very fun event. Any kind of closing thoughts?
Nope.
All right. So let's move on to Fight to Win 194. We're talking about the main event. Rafael Formiga Barbosa.
Thompson Americano?
Yeah. We've seen Thompson a bunch on Fight to Win. I'm not sure how much we've covered him in the past, but we've seen him not main event. I don't think he's main evented before. We've seen him on the upper end of the card before. Formiga, was this for the belt?
No.
Okay.
No.
So Formiga previously for a long time.
There were 5 belts, but they were all
They were
kids.
brown and kids.
They were kids and brown and a purple.
Yeah.
A women's purple.
This was the Formiga show.
Yeah,
Formiga showed up and showed why we love watching Rafael Formiga Barbosa.
Yeah.
Hits immediately off the beginning. Hits like a balloon sweep, overhead sweep.
2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
He does it a few times.
And it's something we see.
At one point he gets back up.
He uses a lot. And on Fight to Win, like I love Formiga on Fight to Win because he shows, like he is a poster child for what you want to see on Fight to Win. Consistently putting up submission offense, and props to Thompson here. Like
he defended a lot. He defended
for like
a lot of arm locks. That
6 minutes of the match is just Thompson defending,
and he gets up and gets out at one point, and then he gets balloon sweeped again.
Yeah, and Formiga's on top. Formiga's going for triangles and arm bars and transitioning. Omoplata. Well, the one omoplata transition that he hit that sticks out of my head in this match was Formiga goes for like from the guard armbar on the outside.
Okay.
But he does it like the underarm grip, and we talked about this on the pre-show of like what you call that.
Yeah, I was always told it was a power armbar.
Yeah, we're talking about the armbar or the knee bar that you do.
Where you put it behind your arm.
Right, and you're basically flexing with your hips now instead of with your torso. Yeah. And so it's like a different...
Well, because rather than blowing someone's elbow, you're blowing their shoulder.
Right.
It puts all the pressure on their shoulder.
Yeah.
So I was always told, like, if they don't...
It's what we see Charles.
If they defend a lot.
What we see Charles Oliveira hit Tony Ferguson with, where he goes, he's chest, and he goes behind his arm, and he rolls it back. But we saw Formiga hit this from
uses
like
your hips hit their shoulder.
And it's a really, really great submission. They can typically spin a little easier out of it.
For arm bars, it's like the only way that I can actually be subbed in arm bars. I'll let you like.
You have bendy arms?
I have super bendy arms.
Oh, really?
My elbows go inside out. So,
gross.
You can literally do anything you want to my elbows, but you have to almost, and I shouldn't say this out loud, you have to power arm bar me.
Gross.
Or like I'll spin out some way.
Gross.
I have really bendy shoulders too, so.
Ew.
Yeah.
So this, we see Formiga hit, would you call it? I always call it, somebody called it, like 6 months ago, called it a guillotine grip.
Yeah.
Like knee bar or arm bar, and I went, because I've always just called it like behind the back.
It's the same thing as knee bars.
Yeah, it's the same position.
It's the same position.
I've done it for years, but I've always just called it like a behind the back knee bar or arm bar. And so it was funny in the pre-show we were talking about this match, and I went, "What do you call that?" You were like, "It's a power arm bar," and I went, "Oh, there's a name."
Well, and
for
because
it.
I come from a different world, like my names are all different than the current the bottom BJJ names are all different than the names I was originally taught to.
Yeah. When I moved gyms at Blue,
and then I'm having to learn the whole, like, what the correct name is.
And you have to learn the Grappling Rewind set of names where it's like what we call, like, man, it's not called that. Isn't it called that? I didn't know that. Yeah. And then all the other, like, we cover so many different lineages and people that call it their own thing. So Formiga has the power armbar, and it was very, very impressed with Thompson's defense here because Formiga goes, and I was like, oh, he has this. And you see the arm and the shoulder fully extended and out and straight. And Formiga goes to turn, and Thompson like turns a little bit, and Formiga goes, okay, I don't have it. Immediately rolls it out to an omoplata, and they both kind of fight through the position. And Formiga does a really great job keeping the control and the posture.
He goes and grabs the gi on the other side. Yeah, the other
he
arm.
reaches like over and uses it as an underhook on the cross side. And I went, and you see him like variously,
which I never really thought about before. I've always learned to reach under the forearm and like pull the far shoulder towards you.
Rachel and Greg,
but
my wife and one of my coaches,
see, I don't do
it all the time.
I don't do gi enough to really ever worry about
all during
like
quarantine. Rachel, we train together every other day. Rachel did this to me a ton, and I was like, that's a really, really annoying grip. I got to start doing that, and so I incorporated it in my game. It's cool to see Formiga doing it because it essentially, when you have the omoplata, on the cross side, it will functionally stop the roll, but
it also puts a lot of pressure on your
neck and shoulder.
Yeah.
Because it kind of pitches you forward. And so normally where you could kind of like roll through, you don't have that other shoulder to like dip underneath you to get the leverage on the roll. So you have to roll almost like over the omoplata, and you're really not in a position to do that most of the time. And you can also keep someone down and prevent them from rolling on the omoplata. Formiga takes it to the top, goes triangle, eventually goes out again. I think there's 3 or 4 more sequences for Formiga's kind of trying stuff.
Yeah, it just kind of goes back. It's a transition to a transition. It's an arm bar to an omoplata to an arm lock to a
triangle.
To a triangle.
And then eventually Formiga hits like just a top side arm bar on the back. Really great extension on it. And again, I love watching Formiga's game. I remember when one of his many defenses was in Philly. I got a chance to interview him after Fight to Win Philly. Talked about his game, talked about wanting to go to 185 and Masters, and it was a really great interview, and it was one of the few times that I ever really got to talk to him, and I love what he brings to Fight to Win. It's awesome to see him main eventing for matches like this, like showcasing the Fight to Win rule set.
I wonder what the size of this match was. I don't know.
I think he was probably 85. He looked a little heavier than he looked usual. Heavier. That's what I would guess he was. He's always a weight class above what I think he's at, so it might have been 205, but I think he was 85. Yeah. I could have been wrong about that, but I know that he was. I'm going to get this wrong because this was 3 years ago at this point. Was this interview?
Well, him and Hanger are in the same division. And that's like 85.
Okay.
Because they go against each other in Master Worlds all the time.
Yeah. They've had some fun matches,
too.
And
then they did Fight to Win.
Yep. Because his Hanger beat him on Fight to Win, I think.
Yeah, he beat him.
But I think Formiga beat him.
No, he beat him at Master Worlds. Hanger beat him at Master Worlds first in the gi.
This last year. Or with three years ago or something like that. When Hanger took his first Master World title.
Yeah, when he actually won. Because he had problems winning that in the past.
And then he talked about that was a fun set of interviews Hanger did after that. So that's Formiga on Fight to Win this weekend. Watch it. It's just a great display of technique. And if you're not familiar with Formiga, it gives you a great opportunity to like see his game in action. And it was a lot of fun. Highlights what we like about Fight to Win. All right.
And if we don't talk about the kids' matches, but the little girls on that card were crazy technical in a way that
the title matches for Fight. We typically don't cover kids on the show because
there was a little girl that couldn't have been over 10, and she was pulling heel hooks on the other girl.
Yeah, the Fight to Win.
It was wild.
Fight to Win is a great showcase for like teen and kid talent. We just typically don't cover it on the show because it just honestly it's too hard for us to cover. There's not enough information.
Well, there isn't any information about these kids.
Yeah, and that's kind of good. I'm kind of happy about that. But it makes it hard for us to cover.
But it was definitely like if you wanted to just watch the craziness of a gas tank that doesn't end.
Yeah.
And aggression and technical. I was watching them. I was like,
the kids title matches on Fight to Win are always phenomenal, and they're always very indicative of.
And all the little girls have little bows on their head, which is crazy, and they come out with a little bow like da 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 da, and they just like destroy each other.
Yeah,
it's wild.
It's always great. Live, it's always awesome to watch. Like, oh, that kid, like that's why I'm happy to be in Masters.
And I'm looking at this kid and I'm thinking, shit, in like 10 years, you're going to be in my freaking divisions. Like, I'm going to have to fucking deal with your ass.
Nah, Masters 4, here we come.
I know, right? But not all tournaments give me a Master 4,
Yeah, they will in 10 years.
I'm a Master 3 at this point.
So I have nothing else to Fight to Win.
No,
it was
that's
great.
it.
Great matches. Go back and watch the whole video for the whole event is up. It has not been parsed out to individual events because they're probably still dealing with South American Trials uploads.
Sure.
But I hope it does get parsed out this week because, there's a lot of fun stuff on Fight to Win. So moving into our preview, my favorite preview of IBJJF Europeans for once we have brackets.
And we are looking at this with you guys. So.
Where do you want to start? Want to start at the heavy guys or want to start
why not? We're going to big boys.
4 previews for major events for IBJJF. We usually just have names. We're lucky enough today to have brackets. We have not seen the brackets beforehand, so we're going to kind of skim this
Felipe
segment.
Andrew.
Yeah, I know. This segment might have a little pauses here and there. So Miranda and I both go, who is that guy's name?
Yeah, because some of these names I know, but I can't place exactly.
I know their
who
nicknames
they are.
a lot. So the thing for IBJJF is they also have rankings beside them.
Yeah.
So we have Eric Muniz.
Yeah.
I think he won. Did he win Worlds this last year?
I don't know.
Placed looking really good. They'll have at the bottom, they'll have if they were a previous world champion. They don't have that thing up right now. Eric Muniz, we have Trator also on the same side of the bracket. We have Felipe Andrew on the opposite side of the bracket and Pedro Toponen on the side of the bracket. I think that this is either Felipe Andrew.
I go for Felipe Andrew.
This is Eric Muniz, or this is Trator. I think it's Muniz.
I think it's going to be Muniz versus Felipe Andrew.
I wanna see the Trator match versus Eric Muniz, and then I want to see in the finals. I think we're going to see Felipe Andrew versus Eric Muniz.
And I think Felipe Andrew will win.
I think Eric Muniz wins that one.
Oh, okay.
So that's men's super heavyweight for the IBJJF. Onto the heavyweight division. We have Rita Metu. I always mess up his name. We have Adam Wardzinski on the right side of the bracket, actually taking the number 1 ranking here for his division. Dominic Bell is taking number 2 on the other side. And of the names, those are the names that I am most familiar with. I think, again, number 1 and number 2, Dominic Bell and Wardzinski. I think these guys have met before. I don't remember. Bell has been looking better and better. I do really, really like Wardzinski's game. I'm biased. Wardzinski plays a butterfly X kind of game that I watched him a ton at blue belt when he was a brown belt, and I watched so many of his studies and techniques. I'm usually going to pick Wardzinski regardless, but we should have a really fun match here between Bell and Wardzinski if it does go that way by the rankings in the heavyweight division. In the medium heavyweight division, let's see, who do we have? We have a lot of, again, the Euros are always really hard. We have Leandro Lo, number 1 out of Unity, Leandro Lo, and then number 2 on the opposite side.
Has Leandro Lo always been out of Unity?
No, he used to be out of
Alliance or one of them, right?
Yeah, and then he's bounced around a lot over the years.
But it's been recent that he's been there. He's been in Unity.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been more than a couple years at most. I'm looking for number 2 here, Miranda. Do you see number 2 on this list?
No, I don't see. Do you have another bracket? Oh,
it's bracket 2. Shit, we missed.
Did we miss bracket? No. Okay.
Wait, let me scroll.
No, we didn't. Okay, good.
So the way what you just heard was the screen is oriented just perfectly to only show a single bracket and not look like there's another bracket. So we have Leandro Lo in bracket 1.
Some of the larger brackets, we definitely have more than one bracket going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then ranked number 2
is Bruno Felipe Santos Lima.
Yeah. Silva, I think. Bruno Silva. Ranked number 2.
Where does it say Silva?
It's after the Lima.
Oh, it's after Lima.
Yeah. It's cut off. I'm going to go with Leandro for this one.
Yeah, I'm going Leandro Lo. He looks good.
Yeah. And those look like...
He's looked good in training. He's looked good in a lot of...
Yeah, we saw him have kind of a weird match at BJJ Stars or BJJ Bet recently, but he still didn't look bad.
Yeah, but he always looks tired. He always looks like he always looks like he's tired and he doesn't want to be there.
Leandro Lo always looks like the most tired dude on the mat, but he'll still win.
Yeah.
In the middleweight division, we have, again, 2 brackets again. We have Tommy Langacker as the number 2 seed. We have Bradley Hill also back. I think... Was it Bradley Hill or was it Dan Strauss that got the pec torn in Polaris?
I don't know.
I think it was Dan Strauss. So we have Bradley Hill
I've torn a pec before. It's horrible.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I tore one in an armbar at a tournament. It sucked.
After you just talked about how flexible you are.
And that was a whole different... was a long time
number
ago.
1 slot, Tynan Daupra.
Yeah.
So we also have Tarek Hopstock in this bracket as well. I think we are going to have a final between Tynan Daupra and Tommy Langacker, and I think that Daupra will take that.
Yeah, go Daupra.
But again, Langacker, if there's a
guy...
Daupra
won
Worlds.
BJJ, the IBJJF...
EUG?
Yeah. No, it wasn't an IBJJF
Worlds.
Heavyweight...
GP?
I
think that was Daupra. It might have been Daupra.
Oh, okay.
We won Worlds, too.
Okay.
First year at Black wins Worlds. I'm not going to bet against Daupra, but again, if anyone can pull a rabbit out of the hat, it is Tommy Langacker. He's a guy that very, very hard to beat. You can outpoint him. You can sub him. I feel like Doubtful here can get to the back of Langacker because I think that's what their last match was, but this should be a really, really fun match. Again, number 1, number 2 for the middleweight division. Moving on to the lightweight division.
AJ Agazarm.
Agazarm.
Agazarm, whatever.
We have AJ Agazarm. Again, finally in his weight class, though. He is ranked number 22, but again, he's not super active. He has been doing like super heavyweight versus... He's run against Max Jimenez twice in a row.
Yeah.
I am happy to see him back in his weight class.
You have Igor
Nascimento as well, ranked number 5th in this division. We have Alexandre Molinero, ranked number 3. In the other side of the bracket, we have Marcelo Andrey, Novo Niao, and we have Espen Mathisen, ranked number 4. I think that's probably what we see in the bracket A is Marcelo Andrey versus Espen Mathisen. I think Marcelo Andrey will take that on. He has a not first round bye. He's in the pony rounds. And then on the second side of that, I think we're probably going to see... there's a guy ranked number 2, Nathan Faritas, who I'm not familiar with offhand, from Cesar Acosta International.
I wonder if he has another name that we know him by.
So that would be an interesting finals, but seeing Molinero or Igor Nascimento versus Marcelo Andrey. Again, I'm going to pick Marcelo Andrey here because he looked really good recently. Moving on to the featherweight division. Let's see. We have Isaac Doderlin, ranked number 1. It's also a division with 2 different brackets here. We have a number of other European names that I cannot pronounce. I don't want to disrespect all of Europe by messing it up. We have Diego Sodre, ranked number 2 as well. The most recognizable names in the bracket that I see, so I would... I kind of think that Doderlin takes this. Like, Isaac Doderlin's making a bunch of improvements to his game. I've been watching him post online about the improvements he's made to his game and like how he's changed things, and I've been really impressed with what he's done recently. Yeah. So I think that Europeans is another time for him to kind of come out and showcase the improvements he's been making. Again, but Euros are always like a chance to see other European grapplers who don't cover much and get surprised, which is why they're fun. Moving on to the light featherweight division.
Paulo Miao. You
see Paulo Miao? Okay. We also have Hiago George on the other side of the bracket there. Hiago George is ranked number 1. Paulo Miao is ranked number 2. Paulo Miao has also been posting a ton of like really great technical information online. He's been posting a bunch of like training, like instructional footage online recently on like super sweaty mats.
Yes, the sweatiness of the mats disturbs
They
me.
made a joke about that.
Like, I know,
so
I saw it.
You saw they poured water on it and they did it.
But it disturbs me to watch that. Like, it like, when you're in it and when you're rolling and it gets like that and it gets nasty, like, you don't think about it because you're rolling and you're hot and it's just kind of... But, like, to look at it, it just... It's
a lot of sweat.
It's a lot of sweat. It creeps
doesn't
me
bother
out.
me at all. It should, but it doesn't.
Out.
I think... Yeah, Paulo Miao in this bracket, it's hard to... Actually, I'm curious if they'll close out. Hiago George, Paulo Miao. Neither would surprise me. They're both ranked 1 and 2. They're both always on the podium at major events and worlds. Again, this could be the year that Paulo Miao... He's like 31 now, 32.
Yeah, because he's been doing Masters tournaments too.
Could be the year it happens, but I don't...
sucks if you sign up for a Masters tournament all of a sudden.
Paulo Miao. You get Sanji, you get Lovato, you get Cyborg.
Both the Miaos were on both sides of the bracket.
Yeah.
So, like, it was like you got Joao or you got Paulo. It depended on which one you were in.
I just think it's really funny that nowadays that you're seeing guys that are still... like very much not in their prime maybe, but like there you can see it from here doing Masters when you're like, hey man, Lovato, you just won a world title in Bellator. Like a year later, 2 years later, you're in a Masters tournament. Like I understand, like Sanji is in a Masters tournament. Like this seems unfair. Like your 32 is not my 32.
No.
So that's the light featherweight division. Moving into the roosterweight division, a real small division. We have Taliesin Soares. We have Yuri Soares as well. We have a bunch of other European folks.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm not familiar enough with a lot of the folks. Francisco Andrade is in this. I'm going to go Francisco Andrade. Again, Yuri Soares is ranked above him. Again, both Cicero Costa International and PLSB Cicero Costa. It wouldn't surprise me. We have three Cicero Costa people in this bracket. Four Cicero Costa people in this bracket. It wouldn't surprise me to see a full, close through of the 6 people we have total.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 people we have total. It wouldn't surprise me to see a Cicero Costa close out because 4 of the 7 are Cicero Costa. Again, anything can happen. Moving on to the female black belt super heavy, we have Gabrielle Passana and we have Claire France-Thevon. I think they've gone against each other. I think Passana has taken that division
so
of 2. I think Passana takes that for the women's super heavy. Onto the medium heavyweight for the women, we have Maggie Grandotti, ranked number 1 out of Fight Sports, Sabaro's girlfriend. You were watching a bunch of footage from her. Was it this week or last week?
It was last week. She was doing
counter Uchimatas off the double leg,
single off the
single leg.
Yeah, and I was more curious how exactly that functions.
Big ass Uchimata, one of my favorite moves. We also have Chloe McNally from Unity Jiu-Jitsu. I've heard some good things about her and her game. Offhand, I can't place her. I should. She's ranked number 2 in the division. So that most likely could be. Oh, we also have Magdalena Loska as well as in the division from Brasa in Poland. Look for her to potentially be real tough to get through. A division of 7 as well. Oh, sorry, 6. 7. Yeah, 6 as well for this one for the women's medium heavyweight division. Onto the middleweight division for the women, we have Aaron Johnson, we have Julie Mabel, we have Talta Lima, Priscila Batista, and Lucene Silva. Do you recognize the names in this division?
No, I do not.
Okay, probably European. Should be a fun division. We're definitely going to get a chance to see someone I'm not as familiar with, which always excites me. Again, the Euros are always hard for this reason, but should be fun. Onto the lightweight division, we have Margaret Cicerelli is in this division. Yeah. We have Hannah Ronch in this division. We have Fionn Davies in this division as well. Based on the names, I'm going to go Fionn. She is ranked number 1. When did we see her last? We saw her on was it a Grapple Fest or was it a Polaris? It was Polaris, right?
Polaris, I think. Yeah.
Who'd she?
Or was it who's number 1?
No. It was Medusa.
Oh.
It was Medusa. She did combat jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah. But
it was like 40 seconds.
Who's number 1 too? Because she was down training with B Team for a bit.
I think so.
Maybe so I want to say she did like a who's number 1 or something like that.
But the Medusa match was like 40 seconds long.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh yeah, that's Fionn Davies. She's really good.
So it's probably going to be her and Margot.
Yeah. Or Natalie Soares as well.
Yeah.
Could be in here. In the mix is on the other side. But again, we're probably going to see Natalie versus Margot Cicerelli. Margot Cicerelli in that side. But the winner will most likely face Fionn Davies.
Yeah.
Again, anything can happen in the Euros, but that's the lightweight division for the women. Onto the featherweight division for the women. One of the larger divisions that we do have. Let's see. We have, I'm trying to find number 1 here. Anna Cristina Rodriguez from Dream Art is ranked number 1 in the division. Number 2 is Gabby Fletcher. I would not be surprised to see those two in the finals. We also have Gabby Pereira, ranked number 3 in the division from Qatar BJJ and Vichelines Brazil. Should be very fun, but again, I'm not going to bet against Anna Rodriguez in a women's featherweight match. No. Moving on to the light featherweight division, we have a division of 4. We have Maisa Bastos versus Maria Ono. And on the other side of the bracket, we have Rose Marie Chanduli versus Naomi Matthews.
Yeah.
Again, we saw Maisa this weekend look unstoppable.
Yeah, definitely.
I would not. That is what I expect to see.
I wouldn't bet against her at all.
At Euros again. And moving on to the women's roosterweight division, we have a division of 2. We have Kaori Hernandez versus Talias Felipe. I
don't know either of them.
Talias is from Atos.
Yeah.
And that is really all I know. Again, should be a very fun finals to watch and to recap. So that is Europeans. It's always fun. Yeah. Zach's going to be in next week to cover Euros. Zach always has great insight for the Europeans, which is great.
It's also Guy, so.
I think this is the third year in a row Zach's been the guy for Euros.
Yeah. Well, he can be the guy for Euros. I'm fine with that.
You're not a huge Guy person.
No, I get bored by it.
Yeah. So
I wind up not paying attention.
Should be floaty in the Guy. A lot of fun. It is really funny that Zach, I think Zach got brought on for a Euro show. Okay. That was the first show Zach ever did, and it was we threw him into the deep end for that one, killed it, and so Zach's been the Euros guy ever since. So that does it for the show. You have anything else? You had some fun this weekend.
Yeah.
You went to the outro section of the show.
Yeah, we can. I went to PJ Bart's seminar. We did some passing, which was fun. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a lot of different. He definitely brought some insight to some things I never really thought about.
You were talking about some hand placement and was it a foot positioning?
No, it's a foot positioning.
On body lock passing.
On body lock passing, where you basically use your. Generally, like when I've always pushed the feet in from somebody playing butterfly.
Yeah.
You push their feet in.
Yep.
And then you kick one of your legs up and get both your knees
on the same side of that foot.
Same side. But instead of that, he puts the one goes almost to the other side, and then you use the bottom part of your leg to hook the foot on the other side, and then you yank that foot closer.
Yeah.
And so you literally hold that leg back, and then you go over that leg. So, and then you just sprawl out on their butterfly hook, and you
just passed already.
Yeah. Which was interesting. And then he did some kind of like outside. I think he was calling them. Forgot what he called it. He instead of moving in a circle motion, he moves in like kind of angles, which was different, and a lot more upright passing, which was fun. So.
Yeah, again, Roberto Jimenez, I'm saying I didn't know his seminar was coming. I think he posted. I was like, oh, that would have been. I was like,
yeah, it was
that would have been fun
and it was like
to go
$60. It wasn't,
I know. I thought it was like 75.
It was 60 for if you were ahead of time, 75 day off.
Oh, that's what it was.
But it was an interesting grouping. It was like some MMA fighters. It was a couple local people. It was snowing. It was a very
awesome. You go to a ton of seminars, so it's always cool. It's always really cool to hear what you bring back, because you always bring back like really interesting things on the show, and you we're really complimentary. Not to tell you about it, but before the show of the seminar, so it's like. Yeah. It's cool to cool to have someone that kind of vets the seminars and
Well, yeah,
I try good seminars.
Yeah, I try to figure out who is fun to see and who is not fun to see.
Yeah.
And who's worth the money and who's not. And I've went to a BJ Bart seminar before, and it was passing, and this was a little bit more of that. A little more refined.
At least you get details. If I get one thing out of a seminar, usually I'm pretty happy. That's what I'm that's what I'm going there for. I'm going to get one thing that's I can use that in my gift. That's what I'm looking for in a seminar.
And what was hilarious was he kept on saying, he was like, yeah, my gas tank sucks. And I was like, dude, I've freaking watched your matches. Your gas tank is fine.
Yeah, I've seen you at trials.
Yeah.
That's not the problem.
Yeah, that's not what.
You out there with monsters being a monster. So
yeah, you're completely
I'm super
fine,
excited. He's doing West Coast trials, right?
He is.
Yeah,
yes,
okay. I'm super excited to see how he fares at West Coast trials at 77.
Yeah.
It should be
entertaining.
Should be very, very entertaining. Again, he's one of the guys I'm like, I'll go out and watch him live again. To Vegas to go see guys like Barch and the rest of the folks that are super top level guys that would main event in something else to go watch him do a trials.
Yeah.
So,
it'll be a fun trip.
Awesome. So I'm looking forward to that in a month or so here. I've got nothing else. I'm not doing anything fun this weekend. I'm just reorganizing my house.
Yeah, I haven't thought that far ahead yet, truthfully.
Yeah.
It's been some weeks.
It's been some weeks. I got nothing else. As always in the show, I'm your host, Mange, and the co-host,
Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Around. To see on the mat, whatever it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.